Take one. My name is Kelvin Passfield. I work for Te Ipukarea Society. I was the technical director for maybe 10 years, but I've stood aside and now more of an advisory role.
Kia ora, my name is Alana Matamaru Smith and I am the current director of Te Ipukarea Society, a local non-government environmental organisation based here in Rarotonga, Cook Islands.
I think we originally received a request back 2006 perhaps from Takutea Trust, the people from Atiu who are looking after Takutea. They asked if we could do a rat eradication over there because there's a lot of rats and it's an important bird island, and they knew we were doing other rat associated work.
The Takutea rat eradication project took about a month and a half. It was a real labour intense project that required a good team effort of about 14 strong personnel, having those from Atiu and a team from Rarotonga helping out to clear tracks as well as deploying the bait. The benefits of a rat eradication project are that there are biodiversity benefits. We're able to see the native vegetation growing back, as well as of course improvements in our nesting seabird population, particularly those ones that are nesting on the ground.
Kia ora, tōku ngō ko Dr. Anthony Vavia, no Mitiaromaio. Alana had reached out to me to see if I was interested in joining in on the project. She needed a team to help clear tracks throughout Takutea, as well as deploy the conservation pallets, sailing there on Marumaru Atua. That served a double purpose where I could help out on the project, but also help crew the waka on the way there. So it was really good to be invited by both Te Ipukarea Society and Cook Island Voyaging Society.
Kia ora, my name is Evangeline no Atiu Maiau. We began thinking about this project a few years ago. And by a few years ago I mean pre-COVID, and it was actually sitting down with Birdman George on Atiu, and he was talking about some of the conservation efforts that he had made in terms of the birds over there, and then some of the work that we had been doing on the waka around protecting bird life, and that was the rat eradication stuff up in Suwarrow, and we were talking about different things that could be done. And then from there we began talking about Takutea.
And we eventually got to do a feasibility study with BirdLife International in 2014, I think it was. And that eventually we found the funding and got the manpower together to be able to do the work.
And so at that point in time, we kind of just sat on the idea, and then this funding proposal came up, and it was looking at small island conservation. It was looking at how we could maintain our bird life, and Takutea was a natural fit for that.
Kia ora, my name is Brennan Panzarella. I'm an ecologist living in Rarotonga, and I had the pleasure of being included in the Takutea rat eradication and biodiversity surveys, where I did a number of things to support the mission, including a vegetation survey to estimate the change in vegetation due to the absence of rats in the years following the eradication.
The logistics of getting the equipment that we needed, which was, probably about 3 tonne worth of equipment onto an island that is very remote, that does not have a boat ramp and does not have a place for a boat to even park up, is actually really, really difficult. The island's also really vulnerable in the weather. So when we're talking about big swells, changing swells, or different weather patterns going on, you can't actually land.
There's lots of moving parts to making for a successful rat eradication project. It first started in sourcing the bait, which came from a New Zealand brand. This is the same bait that Department of Conservation also use. Once the gear was landed in Atiu, we were then able to use Marumaru Atua to then take the bait and of course the crew from Atiu off to Takutea. But because Takutea doesn't have a passage, it then meant we got some of the smaller boats to then take the bait to the reef side of Takutea, to where we then have the manpower setting up a human chain to then offload all of our gear, our bait, our camping equipment. We, were absolutely shocked because a lot of the gear is very heavy, but we were fortunate to have the numbers to get the gear across dry and safe on day one.
First priority for the trip was to make tracks. We had to clear tracks throughout Takutea's forest, and the goal with the tracks that we had cleared, it allowed for an even distribution across the entire island, trying to cover each point. And so once that was done, we were able to distribute every 20 metres along each track, which was a lot of work, a lot of bush clearing and trying not to trip up on coconuts and other hazards.
So every morning after breakfast we would have a team meeting to talk about what we were going to achieve that day. There was quite a few complexities around the use of the GPS gear. It was quite technical, and so we went through that and had some training.
Learning how to use the rovers, the Magic GPS rovers, cutting the trails and marking the bait stations and throwing the bait, and just surviving on an uninhabited island in a tent in the heat.
As soon as the sun would rise, we'd all be up having breakfast, having our coffees and preparing for the day. We'd have someone run through the program of what we're expected to do, and we'd give an update on our progress.
Then come back, have lunch, recoup, get a bit more energy together, and then back out for the afternoon to continue the work, getting as many of the bait stations marked and the tracks cut as possible until the day's goal was achieved. Then back, have dinner. We had some kava, which we took over, which was a nice change on occasion. Sit around a bonfire, have a bit of a chat, and yeah, go to bed. I mean, you're pretty tired at the end of the day, so eat, bait and sleep.
Yeah, so once we got to the island, cutting the trails was extremely labor intensive, and we were exhausted after the first week. But yeah, the day-to-day, it was just whatever you had to do to just keep making the trails and to find that new level of deep effort, break through that next wall, then find that new level of effort. But then I think when we got the reinforcements from the Atiu boys, they came, reinforcements, they brought a lot of energy, and then we had more people, and then it started to feel a bit more manageable.
Although it was a saturated program and physically demanding, the whole time being there seemed a bit romantic. Being on this tropical island paradise and camping on the beach and having campfires and preparing meals together was really beautiful, really, really beautiful.
Yeah, so it was every morning it was like, oh, I'm so tired, how am I going to get through the day? And then somehow you got through, and by the end of the day you have these beautiful sunsets surrounded by the most incredible birds you've ever seen, and then you're like, oh, I could live here forever. Then you wake up sore again.
Takutea is really special to the community of Atiu because it is considered as a food basket for the people. Being able to eradicate rats of Takutea does have that biodiversity benefit, which trickles down to the marine space. As an example, if we're able to get rid of the rats, we have increased seabird populations coming back to Takutea, which bring new nutrients to the surrounding area, and this new nutrients then enhances our coral reef ecosystems. So everything is all interconnected, and yeah, it again shows how a rat eradication project can also have benefits for our surrounding reef ecosystems too.
And the idea with it, from our point, from CIVS, from the Cook Island Voyaging Society's perspective, was that it was around us again facilitating and using the waka as transport to facilitate a lot of these conservation projects, and particularly on Atiu. And it was important to me because I am Atuan, and that is my island, and that is the island that feeds our community. It's where people go to harvest, it's what we look after, and so it was really important to do that project on Takutea.
The next stage of this project is really the biosecurity phase. We've got to make sure that the rats don't get reintroduced or other invasive species. The whole island could be reinfested within 2 years with thousands of rats. That's how fast they breed up. So we have to have a bit of an education campaign with the people of Atiu about when they're going to Takutea, about being very careful about checking their boxes, their food baskets, their boats.
And I think that's how it should be, is that our job is to facilitate things and help things and make things happen, but it's actually the community that needs to own the projects. And in this case, they owned it. Those boys were out there doing it, they were going backwards and forwards in their little boats, they were staying there, and actually not many people can stay there. The environment's pretty tough. And the Atiu boys, I think, really nailed it in terms of living out there, in terms of sustaining themselves out there. And one of the comments I heard from one of the guys from agriculture, and he was talking about it, and he's like, why do you need all this stuff? We have everything that we need. We've got, they've got the coconut, you've got the fish. We don't need all of this stuff, because actually for them, they don't.
Appreciating the scale of the project and contributing towards seabird conservation on Takutea. That's one of the things I really took away, was the amounts of manutai, the seabirds that were there, the different types of boobies, the frigate birds, the tawake. It was truly phenomenal, and being able to be a part of that was quite rewarding.
The plant species are less special, I'd say, but then the birds were just out of this world. I'd never seen a booby before, Takutea. I'd never properly seen te iwe. I'd never seen so many red-tailed tropic birds, tawake. But the boobies were by far just the strangest, most beautiful creatures that we got to live amongst. And it was a constant reminder of why we were doing what we were doing.
The highlight of this work was actually spending that amount of time on an isolated sand cay, very limited resources, and having to be quite self-sufficient.
Having a hard day out in the field, cutting tracks, it's so hot, being able to complete your track lines, and then having the end of the day to go beyond the reef and check out the marine life and the beauty that it has to offer would definitely be a highlight of the project.
To be honest, the real highlight was actually eventually getting picked up, because one of the challenges of working in a place like Takutea is the weather. It's quite a dangerous stretch of water between Atiu and Takutea, and in the end the boats couldn't come and pick us up. By the time it finally did get there, we'd been going a bit stir crazy because the work was finished, so we just mucked around playing a bit of cricket or baseball, or doing some bird surveys and looking around. But yeah, by the time the boat eventually got back, we were very, very happy to see the boats come around the corner when they did come.
It was one of the hardest things I've done in my life, which, saying it out loud, people will probably be like, oh, that wasn't that hard, but for me it was. But it was also one of the most rewarding things that I've done in my life. Yeah, I don't think I've ever worked that hard and had that much fun at the same time.
The Cook Islands is on a bit of a roll when it comes to rat eradication projects being carried out. Takutea would be the third island in the Cooks to have undergone this rat eradication project, followed by Suwarrow and Palmerston. We won't know till about a year's time if Takutea was considered a successful project, where we'll have to go back and do monitoring. But so far, we feel that the team has done justice in getting the job done. As a result of all of these efforts, we now have our northern group islands also interested in wanting their islands to become rat-free. So these will be, future steps and future projects to perhaps look into for the Cooks.